go, we're live. You have this team stream starting screen, by the way. Okay. Your okay. Mm-hmm. Make sure you have my Discord open because I'm showing as a black screen. You can have as you can have it as a second one, but it cannot be minimized. If it's minimized, it's not gonna show. I'll engage your chat, don't worry. Yeah, today's match is 997 against 1014. Hello to everyone in chat. I'm Lezard Fleck. This is Zuvi. So hello Giovanni, hello RT, hello Boogie, welcome. And Zuvi will be mostly your host. I'll be co-hosting with her today. So enjoy the stream. It's very no, I'm not. I'm just engaging with other things. It seems honestly that they are having either they position themselves in terms of the rallies in a very efficient way against the red team, or they are overwhelming them with power. For them to be controlling every single building at the moment, after a few of them bouncing, like processing plant 2, is actually showing that DEA at this moment at least is the stronger alliance. As we covered at least in my last match, the one that I was covering, that doesn't necessarily mean that DEA will win, but it is a strong indicator as long as they play a little bit strategically. Solar is the importance of solar in general is exactly to be able to have full control of most buildings in the long run. If you are not able to kick people off consistently, solar is not as important as some people think. Solar is still, in my opinion, one of the most important buildings. But if you are, let's say, 15 to 17% in stats, in general stats behind, then usually the best choice that you have is to focus in other buildings to try to get them score, or at least to get solar to not compete with any other buildings and focus. It can be in solar, but in a few buildings that you can push them back. Yep. And participation usually is key. And here's the interesting part about participation. Right now, participation matters, but it's one of the stages where it matters least due to the number of buildings and objectives that is available. The more the match will go on, the more participation will matter because the forces will be spread thinner and thinner. And so this means that unless the red team get all their 30 members in, they're going to be under disadvantage not only in stats but also in participation. So this is not a good start for the finale for the red team at the moment. To answering people in chat, we're at least I am good. Welcome everyone. And regarding the matches that can be covered, you can try talking to the team and we'll see what we can do. I don't promise covering anything, but hey. Yeah. So it seems like most of the match is not being fought, and for a lot of buildings, not many rallies are being started in both teams. It seems like Nyx is restarting a rally to try to get processing plant 2 back, but it doesn't seem like the red team is trying to compete for a lot of the buildings with rallies. So I think yes, I think we might be able to see some competing in terms of things that are happening, but it seems like they are not having enough power to push in a lot of the buildings at the same moment. I think the Yes, I think the most important timing to get solar is roughly around the 45-minute mark. So this sorry, this means that this means that at this moment, this match that is being covered is a match that this moment is a moment that if they can have full control, as I was mentioning, is going to be favoring them a lot for not only first occupation points, but also being able to put pressure in the center. Because having full control around the 45-minute mark of solar can help you dictate the pace of the match. And pacing is extremely important in cases of matches like this, because pacing them means that the other team is having only to respond to your moves and means that you have some strategic moves ahead of them. Mhm. Yes, they are around the range of 1,000. So a lot of the states in this range don't have all the features as usually other states do. So this will play a big part. Hmm. And it seems like a lot of the match will be sorted out the way that I've been playing so far, mostly on power. Because even though that they have been pushing back in some of the buildings, I don't see any of the two teams necessarily playing for pacing control, if that makes sense. It seems like a very vanilla match, and I'm not saying that necessarily is a bad thing, but I don't see a team that is coming from behind with this level of strategy and the things that aren't playing to push back and fighting in that. And that can be for multiple factors. One of the factors that I can think of is that they know that they are slightly weaker or they are weaker behind them, even if it's not by a slight margin, and that is play a part in their psyche, and this means that they feel like they have less chances, and that if that is the case, it is going to actually put a lot of pressure in them in trying to every time that they lose a building, they will be seeing less and less motivated. Not all alliances are like that. Some alliances actually flourish under pressure, but especially in a finale, you feeling like you were the weaker part of the match can put a big strain in how you think and how you play. Mhm. So chat is Chad is asking if it is possible for you to turn light mode off. And RT Joan, here's one thing that a lot of people don't get. It's not necessarily that the red team is weak, because if they are in the finals, they beat every other team besides them, maybe losing only one match. And this match can even be against the champions in some cases before. So what does matter in some cases when you are losing a lot of buildings is that the difference in power that they have between them is it has a really high gap, or in some cases due to the timing of the match, it can be a bad timing for the people playing as well. Due to the fact that they only have 24 players, I'd say it's a mix of both. So it sometimes just the score doesn't reflect how good a team is. I've seen some matches that they were overwhelmed by a team that they had nothing to do how to fight them back, and that can play a part in how the score goes. So as I was saying, it's not necessarily because they are in the weaker side in the score that they are a weak team. Some alliances that I usually cover, which would be Vol and 342 alliances and other in those areas, they always say that with strategy in an event like RR or Mining Mayhem, you can cover a difference in power up to 20% in stats with strategy if the other team is not at the same level of strategic level of you. So it is for those events that have multiple objectives and multiple things. Strategy is a really key important, which is why we were discussing a little bit of how passive people were playing. Mm-hmm. Thanks always show around the 36-minute mark, 26 and 16. So I our I always remember 666. Hey, it's a good way to memorize. Can I say a lot of people call me devil before, so one thing the people in chat is saying, and I do think they are correct. I have not checked the match exactly. We're going with the info that is provided. Is that DEA may be from State 1000, and if they are from State, yes, and if they are from State 1000, as you mentioned that they were, I mean, this means that DEA is one of the strongest alliances in the game comparatively because State 1000 is a different state compared to other places. State 1000, a lot of people, including streamers, flock to it because of the number 1000. So they have a huge amount of high spenders in that state and very strong people. This means that it's very hard to compare to them in terms of rally leads and points and things like that. So they are going to be struggling in fighting and things like that. And there's nothing that they can do because it was very clear that that state due to that number was going to happen like that. Special states like, as I mentioned, 666 is a joke, 777, and other states with numbers that are called, let's say, magical numbers, tend to be stronger than the rest of the other states if they don't fall apart with people fighting against each other. So it is to be expected that an alliance from state 1000 that goes to the finals is going to be overwhelming in terms of stats other alliances. And this makes it interesting because I don't think the DEA players that this is a good time for them to the match, and still they have 30 players here. But I do think that this was a match that is from a Korean alliance here, and this is a good time for them to play in the match as well. So even if this is a good time for them to play, they still don't have full participation. So I do think that them being demoralized, as I mentioned, is actually a key factor in here because they don't believe that they can beat this match. Hello, Amanda. How are you doing? Depending of the time zone of United States, yes. But my point is that, in my opinion, I don't think this would be prime time for them to usually do matches. Mm-hmm. And it is at a 36 mark, we're gonna see how strategically the red team is going to play because even if they do have stronger players, they can't have every single joiner as stronger as their joiner, and they cannot have in terms of reaction things to be overwhelming them in every single position. Uh, that being said, it seems like that the DEA is going full aggressive in them and trying to get them to be kicked off from rallies, and they are starting to burn some of their joiners. If if yes, if core cannot pull through in terms of how they are gonna do tanks and how they are gonna be fighting back, then definitely this match it is decided and there's nothing that can be done. So we will know if there is a chance of core fighting back as soon as we get a few minutes into the tanks. If they can do it, then they might have a chance because of fighting back with spillage and everything that can happen. Then what I would do in this case to fight back is to focus in the water tanks and then at the last minute push back in some of the buildings. Probably maybe fighting for one building, let's say center, to just not get them have full control in it. While I push, I'd stay mostly, as I mentioned, in the water tanks and then reset the buildings at the last minute. If they can have a full control in almost every single water tank, they still have a shot at this, even though there is a small chance of them actually doing it. And for those that are in chat right now and that are watching and understanding, keep in mind that if you want to get some of the participation prizes that you may get, there are 10 people that are going to be randomly picked by the ones that post their UID in chat. We are collecting them and we'll be sending to the developers. So if you want to get some freebies, make sure to drop your IDs in chat and we'll be collecting them. do not repeat and spam your IDs because we are tracking people that do it, and as that makes our job harder, we might slightly forget you by accident, you know? So don't spam. Just say just post it once. So what states are fighting right now? It's state 1000 against state 997, I think, or it's state 1014. It's one of the two. It's 1000. Let me check in Discord the message that we got. So yeah, it is. Yeah, I do think it's 1000 against 1014. It is Chamchan. As I mentioned, at least for now, we're gonna find out how one-sided it is at the 36-minute mark, as I mentioned. But it's gonna be very hard for the Korean team to come back. There is a chance of them doing that. Usually, it will play a lot of strategy in their part. So I think that it's not very likely to happen because Koreans are known to be very efficient in how they play the game in terms of how good they are mechanically. But in SOS, they tend to be more individualistic and play less with strategy and more with effectiveness, if that makes sense. So if I had to make a guess, I'd say that they are not gonna be playing to the full extent of what is necessary for them to turn over this match. Not because necessarily they're not good, but that's not usually the play style that they have in the game. Every single demographic and culture in this game usually have a way that they play it. It's not always the same, but it usually is a good predictor of play style that they have. Okay, I'm getting the IDs that are happening right now. I'll trust you'll be covering what is happening with the team. As I mentioned, the IDs. They might be in the job of actually trying to force back some of the either weaker or strong players that are in that. I've seen that happen. I don't think that's sufficient, but I've seen that as a strategy being used before, especially if the player doing that is a player that is actually very loaded in terms of relocators. Because relocators are gonna play a huge part in this match. So if they do have a decent amount of relocators, they can use that to put pressure in the other team. This is this is a good team, a good thing. As I said, this is the critical time for them to do some turnover and some back, and this is actually gonna play a good part. Chris, here's the thing that people misunderstand in a lot of cases. You have to time not only getting the splashes, but also when you get the splashes. Because the way that the points work, unless it was changed, and I don't think it was, is that you get the full control points every time that you have, not only when you do first control. Even though that doesn't show in the score, you clearly see when they get full control that the points jump. And this means that if they are trying to, let's say, flip the buildings now, they are going to give 3 points for them for full control for the amount of time that they have. So unless they are able to actually be pushing back in them having full control, it is less efficient for them to to be fighting for those buildings than it would be to just let them have those buildings themselves. And that's one thing that a lot of people struggle understanding in cases like that, is that SOS is a game of resource management, and the troops and people that you have are resources. So you have to use them effectively in a way to be fighting back in every single case in things that are happening. People are saying that they can't listen to you. Let me check if that is the case.
Oh, yeah. I kind of got muted, I don't know why. Because I was unmuting myself before the stream, and I'm 100% sure of that. Well, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, you were muted for the whole stream.
Not my first time, not my last time, but I was 100% sure I was unmuting myself, and I even checked that 3 times. So maybe I got on a key or something accidentally, or I don't know, but oof. I wish there was like an abyss in the ground right now. Jeez, okay. But also, the fact that we got to know this like half an hour after we started and no one said something.
I mean, because usually they're used to me talking a lot. That's one of the things that I'm being letting you lead this match, but it is your match. I'm just a co-host for this one. They probably thought that I was the one that was gonna do the casting.
No, I'm just the face. I'm just here for decoration, you know. My mouth is moving.
Yeah. That's not what we said before. Yes, I will be covering Val versus VVV in the 15 sets.
I am supposed to cover HFC from state 428 at 15 UTC as well. Hopefully,
we are just so Claritos, we're just covering the matches. We're not part of any of the teams. Hello, Ducky. People are saying that they miss you, Zudi.
Aww.
They're saying that you're the favorite German streamer and so on and so forth. And so basically that. Now that you spoke a little bit more, it seems like people are actually actually engaging with you.
I am so sorry, guys, but I mean, everyone who knows me knows that it happens quite frequently, unfortunately. But I swear I checked. I swear. Oh man. Anyway, there was already started a treatment center one. By once. Do you see that name too? I was just distracted for a second.
All right, it seems like right now most of the water tanks are also being covered by the blue team, so this match is pretty much going to be one-sided. If they can catch up with this amount of water tanks at the moment, even if more water tanks show up and they reset the buildings, there's not much that they can do to recover this match. So I think that this match is going to go to DEA, and no matter what Core do.
I mean,
but
they're already
have to see maybe if they survive things. Yes.
I mean, they're already ahead 160,000 points. And while the game is going to continue and the water is still coming, even if like they lose all buildings now, they will take some back with their strength anyway, and tanks. So I don't think they can make up the difference. Like, as you said, no matter what. But
yes, mathematically they do have a chance, but this is a safe shot to call at the moment. Not necessarily because of the numbers that are on the points on the screen, but what is happening in the flow of the game. Because the points, as I said, usually don't reflect how the match is going. I've seen many matches where the team that was ahead in points showing the top was the team that was actually losing. And this is quite common for the matches to be turned over and things uh, to be going in this direction. So the way that both teams are playing, not only their score, this is pretty much decided because I don't think that strategy wise the Korean team can pull a rabbit out of their hat to be able to turn over this.
No, and also the joiners of KOR are getting burned again. So that's gonna make it even harder for them to fight. They currently still have 1 minute to go for plan 1 to occupy it completely. They have 3 tanks right now. 3 tanks are unoccupied and the rest is in the hands of the blue team. Oh, right now the red team actually gets a few more, but more are burning as well.
Seems like the red team is starting to recover some of the water tanks at the moment and fighting for usually in the bottom left side, but I don't think that it can put enough pressure to that. They are gonna get likely the full control into the treatment, the processing plant one. There is a match going in there, but I don't think it's gonna be enough for them to flip over before the full control. And it seems like at this moment the DEA also doesn't care on doing that. Because if you are going into the processing plant, you'll see they're not focusing in taking the building back, they're focusing in burning all the joiners before from moving forward.
Yeah, almost all of them are burning.
Yeah, it seems like DEA is stopped caring about pushing more points in match for now, and they're just burning everyone so they can't fight back for the water tanks as well.
Well, more tanks appeared. Right now, DEA has the advantage again over the tanks. They have a few more. They also have more people to do that, so it should be easier for them to have tanks.
Yeah, now that most players are being burned, this means that even the joiners from DEA are gonna be able to kick them back.
Yeah. But I mean, I saw P5 burn P4, P6 burn P5. So they didn't even have the leads burn people. I just saw that skin. It looks so funny. Okay, so every building is under the DEA control again, or almost again. Tanks are also mostly dominated by DEA as well.
And for those that were questioning on chat, if it was more important for go for tanks or the buildings. Here's the thing: everything matters in Reservoir Raid, but what it does matter is that you have to play strategically and know why you're getting them and how you are spending your resources in getting them. So there are valid strategies of you ignoring the buildings, like we have seen in a lot of older states, and focusing more in the water tanks. While there are strategies that are valid for you to focusing a little bit less into the water tanks, to put some pressure into not allowing them. And this will always depend on how much the other team is going and how the flow of the match is. There are strategies that are more efficient than others, but the word strategy doesn't mean it's not as rigid as a plan. Because as a plan, what will happen is that you cannot adapt. And what usually wins a match that is competitive as this one, usually when the powers are close to each other, is adaptability. So if the team that is most can easily adapt to anything that the other team throws at them, and evolve even during the match is usually the team that has the higher advantage. And that is almost as important as having the most rally leads and the strongest players in them. As I mentioned, with a lot of the matches that I usually cover, it is a consensus between the strongest alliances in terms of power that I have that you can bridge a gap up to 20% with strategy. And this is what it means. Strategy means to be you reading the flow of the battle and adapting to everything happening around you.
Exactly. So I don't think they have many people they can use anymore, if I'm being honest. Like, most were burned by now. 20 minutes to go. They are 210,000 points behind, or close to that ish. It's gonna be impossible by now, I think, for the Korean team to catch up. I mean, I don't know the mathematics, you know those, but I think by now it's impossible. Like, even mathematically.
The most amount of points that a team can get is up to 14,400, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, it's very close to that, so it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
So in 21 minutes at the moment, it means that mathematically they could reach, but for them to do that, they would have to be controlling every single building and every single water tank. And due to the fact that, let's say, at least 60-70% of their players are burning, and the ones that are not are behind the line in general, that happening is a very, very unlikely scenario, and unless, let's say, every single member in the DEA team has an internet issue and they stop playing altogether.
They currently have 7 people behind the line. 5 or 10 actually. They have 10 people now behind the line. And DA has no one behind the line. So let's see what they're doing here. Not sure really against the settlement? It seems like the settlement here right now, actually. Like they're trying to burn some back, actually. Butter is rallying the center, which has 16,000 water stored. So that will be a big spillage drop if they get them out there.
Problem is that if they move to get the spillage, it seems like they are going to be targeted. So even if they do get some of the spillage, probably DEA is willing to let them teleport in and to get some of the spillage to just burn the remaining players that are like that.
I mean, if the people who are zeroed behind the line actually have relocators, then it doesn't really matter if they go out again. They can't get zeroed again. So that would correct. So that would be a strategic plus if they do have the reloads and actually manage to get close to the spillage.
But I do think that DEA at this moment doesn't care if that happens, because it's not just about winning to them. It's probably about from the playstyle they are doing right now. It's about zeroing every single player while they win.
Let's see.
So Claritos is asking what is the strategy from playing behind the line. It's very simple. You can't be burned behind the line, because if people are stronger than you and you already have been burned and you lost a good amount of troops and you know that they can burn you, they are gonna keep coming for you and you are gonna be zeroed. And if they keep burning you, this also means that you're gonna be relocated out eventually with the fire, as the fire is a lot quicker during RR. As you can see, almost every single player behind the line here is a player that is not a P8 and was probably already burned by them before.
Yeah. And I think more will go behind the line now, because here's a P6 that is currently burning and getting lots of marches towards the settlement from all sides, like really from west, from south, from east. And DEA is also controlling every single but one water tank, and that one is unoccupied. Like, the whole map is blue. But there's another try to get this village from center. There's a new rally. It's currently matching. Let's see. I'm not sure they will get the pillage out though, because I mean they've set a few rallies right now. They should up for a double. Oh no, they got them out actually.
And this is what I meant before, right? That if Core probably played this a little bit more strategically and knew how they were going to be putting pressure in DA, I don't think that they would have won, but the gap wouldn't be this big. It would probably be a gap like 50 to 70,000 points of difference if they knew what they were doing in terms of how to fight back. And I'm not saying they're not playing effectively in terms of mechanically, as I said, but it's very clear that their the movements seem a little bit unfocused in the direction of where they're going, and unprepared for the moves that are being done by DEA. DEA is playing very aggressive when they are setting the pace from the start, especially after the 45-minute mark and with the water tanks. They have been using the fact they can burn players to their advantage in terms of pacing. So it is very hard for you to have any chance of fighting back if you're not setting the pacing and you are the weaker alliance.
Yeah, they also set a double rally on Treatment Center 2 right now, but there's a massive time gap again, like earlier. There's a 6-second time gap, while they have like a 1-second march difference, I would say, based on where they're standing right now. So DA could easily reinforce if they wanted to. Right here, Treatment Center 2. And Nyx has started a rally on a settlement. On the, I think one of the stronger players actually. It's a P8. And he's annoying her currently with recons. I love when people are doing that. Just sending recons and recons. They can't see anything in the war tab anymore. Everything is just flashing red.
It is a valid strategy for you to doing things like that, but if you think that's gonna stop someone of actually looking things in the war tab, because the pillage probably knows how strong he is compared to Yoon, so this is probably at a point where Yoon was probably zeroed or is being reinforced and something like that, but it doesn't matter.
Pillage is actually attacking him right now. But I still remember one SVS. Someone was so upset when he was like getting recon 200 times. So it's a valid strategy to annoy someone, definitely. So let's see. Yeah, wow, even with a 6-second time difference between the rallies, they got them out. So I don't think DA actually tried really to reinforce that building. So they're still 290,000 points away from DA. Oh, not from the other side, DA reconning the rally lead of core. And they're currently trying to get each other out with solo matches, it seems like, in Helipad. Because Eco only have sent quite a few marches against Helipad where Tiger is in right now. Tiger was reinforcing constantly. While
yeah, and they only have 2 people inside of Helipad, so solos are probably gonna be enough to pull it out.
Wait, how can you see that?
Oh, if you check in the battle map, it shows in the shield how many players are in the building.
Ah, I didn't know that actually. And also the
Here is the thing.
reinforcement coming.
Here is the thing, LDC. If Core had reserves in standby, they would have over 30 players. That is a valid strategy and a valid thing to point out, because what you can do in an event like this, if you have 30 players plus reservists, is that you can get some of the reservists in and swap some of the players that were zeroed out, and after 10 minutes, the players that were zeroed out can come back with full troops.
Yep.
So that was a great question that you asked, but I don't think that this is gonna be something that you can be doing for, because as we were mentioning before, the players from DEA are the stronger players at this moment. Not only they are the stronger players, but they are also the ones that were playing more aggressive and setting up the pace, and they had more players to join. So every single variable that could play in favor for Core to fight back this is not available for them at the moment. And what this means is that Core is gonna struggle a lot to even fight back in even terms of DEA. Even if the power gap was not as big as it is at the moment, if the match play completely the same, but the stats were closer, Core would still lose.
Yep. And with the way they were playing, even with the resources they had, like the number of people, who they had, which stats and other like researches and equipment they currently have, because I don't know where the stand is in those states right now currently. But they could have slimmed the difference in points. Like it could be way less than 300,000 points between them. Right now they're getting some spillage, but they're holding none of the tanks, none of the buildings. Well, they have one building that still takes 2.5 minutes for full control, so they get water. Plant 4 is now occupied by DEA again as well, and they have solar, so the control time is way less than in this case from Plant 1. But the KOR person is actually parting and giving it to DEA. Few tanks unoccupied, actually. And here you can see someone got zeroed so much they apparently are unable to gather, or AFK at that point. Might be as well.
Yeah, we do have also not only all blue at the moment. We not only have all blue buildings, but we also have all blue
tanks,
water
yeah.
tanks. Yes, the only tanks that are not blue are tanks that are not being exploited at the moment, and we only have one march going through. We have two now, but the only two marches that were going were to the processing plants, and they were not pushing back. It seems like Tiger was able to push back in the last second on the processing plant 4, but that's about it.
Yeah, and the red team actually has 12 people behind the line. So it will take a while if they, for example, get processing plant 1 back. It will be a long march to reinforce until there if you stay behind the line. And more joiners or even leads are getting burned right now. They're currently trying to get munitions, which is giving a 12% attack and defense buff, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
It can make a difference, but it's
Damage
not gonna
taken.
be like it's not gonna be like a huge amount. What I usually say in general is that munition tend to be out of munition and out of munition and dev compound. Munition tend to be the lower ceiling in terms of skill to be more useful. But for players that know what they are doing and how they're using, dev tends to be more useful. But if you are behind in stats, controlling munitions can be useful, even if it's not a big advantage.
Yeah. Or in the case of like having two completely maxed out people and they need a different in stats.
Yeah,
than even the
and
50%.
having the dev compound, unless you have a player that has a lot of spatial awareness and match awareness, it's like not having a building at all.
True. Like, you can see some people just sending random waves to buildings that are not being rallied, and then a zombie waves at them, they fill it up again, and it was wasted.
Yes.
So...
And this is basically what I mean. So, in my opinion, the dev compound is much better than munitions, but if your team doesn't have that awareness and that skill to use it, for your team specifically, munitions is a better building out of it to have control. Unless you are playing against a team that know how to use dev compound effectively as well, and then in this case you're holding the building just to deny them of the usage of that building. And if they don't, let's say you are playing against a team that doesn't have that awareness, having them control dev and putting just a slightly pressure into them is actually a very good strategic move, because they have to commit resources to holding that building, and it only gives them 240 water, which is the same as a water tank, and they will have to commit a few players to do that while you're using those marches of those few players to have some water tanks. And this is what I mean, as I was saying before, that there is a balance in knowing how and what you're doing and which buildings you're taking and which water tanks and which moments you're doing. So both are important for different reasons, and holding them and knowing why you're doing and adapting to the match and to the people you're playing is what makes a key difference of which of the two is more important at that moment.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you here. But I gotta say, I'm overall surprised how less they went for tanks. Like, right now they went for 4 tanks, probably the unoccupied ones.
But the reason for that, I think, was because every time that I've seen them going for tanks, one player from DEA would go there and burn them. So I do think that while they try to go for tanks, DEA tried to locate the players and went for the tanks in there. The best solution, if they had enough biocaps to do that, in my opinion, would be to actually relocate not in complete sight of the water tanks and to speed the marches in. Because then it would make harder for the players to teleport and go in. It would be a lot more expensive to do something like that, but it would actually at least give them a chance of fighting back for those tanks. Because then the players wouldn't be able to be relocating all around. Because a lot of DEA players were relocating around to burn players. So they clearly didn't have in DEA, from what I can see, and the people relocating, or I may be mistaken, but it didn't look like they had teams specifically for water tanks.
Yeah, it definitely didn't look like it.
They may have players set up, but they didn't have teams set up to do that, it seems.
Now the recon action is going on again. But yeah, let's see. Currently they have 7 tanks, while DA obviously has a lot more. But they're getting some points now.
Keep in mind, as I mentioned in chat, that we are collecting every single ID that you post, and if you're posting more than once, because it's hard for you to do that, I may accidentally forget you, so don't spam.
He might actually forget how to read for a second.
I might forget to forward them, so don't spam, please.
But yeah, I'm just looking right now how much water has built up in all the buildings.
Yeah, the same. I agree with you, LDC, but it's not just about being behind the lines. You can safely position yourself in places where people are gonna struggle to do it. Like here, Elia here has a great positioning in holding the buildings and the water tanks in here, and as you will likely see, they had some water tanks close to this region before that were available. You can see that the players that are close to the water tanks in the left side, that they are being burned if they are close to the water tanks. If they are in the middle of nowhere, however, even though if they can't hold those tanks for a long time, they are being able to hold them for a little bit and squeeze some points in. So positioning from the Korean team is also not taking the situation awareness of how aggressive DEA is playing. Try to go into that, because even the P5 players from DEA are trying to burn some of the core players at the moment.
Yeah, right now someone was getting burned at plant 2 after resetting plant 2 actually. Like just speeded and then burned. I'm gonna be curious to see now with the flipping. I mean, it's less than 3 minutes to go. How much spillage they can still take. I mean, they won't win. It's more than obvious at this point. But how much they can manage to close the gap with resetting the buildings if they manage to do that, because I'm not seeing that right now.
Yeah, and here's the thing: the one valid strategy also as well in how to do things that I've seen be used before. It's not efficient, but it's still possible. Is that, let's say that your team is struggling to get more than 50% of the score of what you're doing in some cases because you have less relocators. I've seen people just pop out the building a few seconds before the match is over, due to the fact that then none of the teams will be able to do it, and you're just taking points from the opponent team.
Yeah.
Because the moment that you pop the water and the water comes from the points of people that were holding score on top of it.
Look at munitions, how they're all lined up here. It looks like I think it might get a big burning party right here, right now. I mean, it's an odd spot for a burning party, but it's gotta be a burning party now. And I'm surprised there are like no flipping of buildings.
I mean, they're probably focusing in individual points. There is only 1 minute left, and they probably want to just get their scores and make sure that all their points are in.
Actually, only two people from DA don't have the maximum points, and 23, 24, 25, 20, 5 people from core didn't get theirs, like the 180,000 points for maximum rewards. So they might get it by being burnt, actually.
Yep, probably.
But there's some flipping going on, actually, but like the smaller buildings with the small spillage, not the big ones.
Treatment Center had a spillage though, and Treatment Center 1 had 11k on top of it, so it was a big spillage there.
Oh yeah, but I just saw processing plant 1 and helipad now. But yeah, 20 seconds to go.
I think they are gonna still flip the solar as well. There you go.
I mean, let's see if they are quick enough. Right here, DA is it. And there's someone from core. Will they get spillage? No, not before the timer's over. Zombies!
Alright, that seems to be mostly anything in the match. I don't know if we have, since we haven't contacted anyone from DEA, I don't think we'll be doing an interview with them on the teams from any alliances. So
No,
far.
I don't have any contact with them.
If you have any final questions, make sure to do that. We'll be looking at chat. I'll be running all the numbers that you posted, checking out for duplicates, and making sure that actually accidentally don't forget any duplicates, if you know what I mean. And then I'll forward to the developers the IDs that you post in chat. So if you have posted, don't post it again. Make sure.
Serge.
And that's about it.
Serge, Les is actually gonna stream the VVV fight later at 15 UTC. I'm gonna be covering the HFC fight from state 428 against NUB. I forgot which state they were in for now. I'll look it up for later. And yeah, so it's gonna be covered definitely. And thank you for being here, Vager.
And thank you to everyone but the 4 players that kept spamming their IDs. Everyone else besides those 4 players are gonna get their IDs forward to the developer.
Yes. And sorry that you can't see Les right now because I'm looking at chat right now. It was a bit hard for me with the camera and everything. Bye-bye, Ducky. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. Congratulations to DEA from State 1000. Congratulations to the win and being champions. And yeah. I don't think there are more questions. I'm not sure though.
All right, that's about it.
Okay, then I'm going offline now. Have a great day, guys. See you later.
Cheers.
And cheers.